Hello and welcome to the Somewhat Daily Backup for Monday, the 31st of August. I am your host, Nick. I don't have a nickname, Richardson, and I'm joined by Stephanie, Lady Lapham Bendixson, and Angus Porn Nick Ronald. Yeah, well, I was going to say we should ask the chat if they have any suggestions for better names, because I just wrote that 10 seconds before we started last time, and I couldn't be bothered changing it this time. Steph, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm fresh off a long day of cooking yesterday. I did a cooking stream. I made a lasagna. I made breakfast muffins. The chat told me how to do a bechamel.
Really? That's fancy.
Yeah, I learned a new skill.
Look, I'm very impressed. I didn't actually realize you were doing a cooking stream. I would have watched that. I'm into that. Angus, what did you cook last night?
Nice.
Gus Is Muted is what I'm seeing in the chat here. But thankfully only one person has said it. He'll figure it out. You've muted yourself in vMix. There you go.
How is that possible?
He's had a big morning.
Well, it's possible because you click the button that says mute in vMix.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
The summary of that was I'm tired, and I'm tired after a big weekend. So that was summed up perfectly by muting. And just to make sure the chat's paying attention, well done, chat.
Well done, chat, for not hearing 1/3 of the voices that are on the screen. Okay, I assume it's all fine now. Now, just before we started, and we will get into it. Oh, by the way, Gus, also, yes, I'm cooked. I also, my mother-in-law is staying with us, and normally this would be an occasion for much wailing and gnashing of teeth. But thankfully, A, she's very nice, and B, I got an hour's sleep in this morning. I got up at like 7:45. And let me tell you, it doesn't look like I have, but that is genuine refreshment. That is I'm Mentos fresh.
Nice.
How exciting.
So that is exciting. But what is not exciting is that we have not prepared at all for this program insofar as we don't know how to spell the name of the show.
Yeah.
I just went to tweet about it and I was like, is it backup all one word or two words? And we decided one word. And then I was like, but then is it an uppercase U or is it just backup?
And then I put a dash in there as well when I tweeted it. Plus, I designed the logo with just the spelling of it, which is always a placeholder until it becomes the final thing, and no one checks. So, yeah. Does that dictate the name?
I landed on the brackets somewhat, capital S, end bracket, daily, capital D,
sure,
capital B, and then capital U, but one word backup. That's how I tweeted this out. Gus, you did nearly the same thing with a hyphen, and Steph screamed it at you with capital letters.
Well, because then it was decided that backup was just going to be in caps, so that if I wrote in normal letters the Somewhat Daily and then backup in caps, it sounds like we're yelling it at you.
It does. It's quite aggressive.
The Somewhat Daily Backup,
show, isn't it? Like, the Daily Show.
So we will figure that out at some point, and there will be a consensus. But until then, we should jump into the news, because this is the Somewhat Daily Backup, and it is brought to you by hero pocketeer Tim from the Learn Programming Academy. And we all know Tim. Tim is an absolute maniac. Tim, I'm fairly certain, has killed people. And
he's a brainiac.
I realize he's a brainiac. That's much better than saying he's a maniac who's killed people. Tim from the Learn Programming Academy wants to teach you programming from his sweet, sweet, delicious brain. All you need to do is throw an exclamation mark Tim in the chat, and Nightbot will provide the link to the information that Tim has provided to get you into programming, to get you to be the same kind of big brain wizard that he is. Tim is a wizard. Tim has a big brain. Tim is a big brain wizard, and he wants you to be one too. And there's also a link in the description of this video if you're watching it later. So a big thank you to Tim for supporting the daily backup. All right, let's get into it with the stories. A lot happened over the weekend because not only has it been Gamescom, but you know, I feel like video game companies in the COVID world have been putting out fires left, right, and center. And the first one is Microsoft and 343 Industries have brought in a Halo veteran to help land this potential shitfire of a game. Joseph Staten, who's one of the developers responsible for the original Halo trilogy's characters, story, and cutscenes, is returning to the franchise as the project lead on the Halo Infinite campaign, was announced late last week. Angus, does this mean that Halo is in worse shape than we thought, and we thought it may have been delayed just because people were angry about the graphics and COVID?
Well, yeah, that was the original point, really. It was they came out and said that, this is due to COVID, like a lot of developers are saying that's putting stress on the workload. But then to bring in this sort of like star from the original trilogy does suggest that maybe they are they're using this as for a chance to have a bit of a restructure or a bit of a change up on the direction of something larger like the story or the campaign itself. So something that they may have had in the pipes the whole time, but it's just they came out and said it was a sort of a COVID response thing, but also on top of the fact that there was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to that announcement trailer in the Xbox showcase where people were like, the graphics aren't as sexy as they should be, and that caused them to really sort of to take a step back. So whether or not, as someone who's responsible for character stories and cutscenes, you would think this is less of a technical thing and more of a narrative thing, or possibly changing a bit of the flow of the game. Similar in vein to, I think it was BioShock, that had one of the original developers come on for the new BioShock that's happening in the future.
The Infinite, yeah. They brought on Ferguson.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and so it's like getting that sort of that sort of original that Wonder Team to come in and say like fix this Halo, because right now the trajectory was firing up and now it's starting to bevel out and drop a little bit. So,
do you think they would have done this if the reaction to the first trailer was just like, "Oh my god, it's amazing! I love everything about Halo. I love everything about this. Can't wait for the game."
I'd like to hope
that would have been the same reaction, or do you reckon that they've been noticing that there's just like they released the trailer, but then for a while that they were going to need help in improving the game, that was probably going to be delayed?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's more to do with probably a larger campaign or a larger story, the story beats and that sort of thing, which is probably a speed bump they were going to hit regardless of that trailer. So I feel like this was probably going to happen anyway, but it's just unfortunate that now it's tied together with that negative response that we got from those trailers, which I remember we were very tired when we watched it, but I did not have that same reaction. I saw a lovely kind of like simple sheen to the Halo universe that I really responded to, but obviously the rest of the internet did not share my sentiment.
Well, I think as well they're trying to keep it classic for classic Halo fans, right?
Totally.
Like it's really difficult with these franchises. If you mess with things too much, then people sometimes can get really like, oh, this isn't Halo.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like the reaction to this was just like, we expect more from Halo now. Make it better.
I think that in this scenario, like there was the negative reaction when the trailer got announced, but I think that this speaks to even if it's not like, because it's very late to be changing story stuff, I imagine at this point, like that's a huge task. So it could be a bit of a tone thing with a slight edit of just going, we need these pieces to fit together better, as opposed to like we're changing the story. But they also brought in Pereira Hintes, who worked on the Master Chief Collection, and he was sort of the lead on helping, and he's now the lead, for helping the game's multiplayer component. It feels like there's this element of 343. There's a bunch of people who just need someone to come in and grab them all and just go, all right, I'm carrying you across the finish line right now. Because I do know that, reports have come out for years that Infinite went through a couple of development cycles of, we're going to start making this, and then we're going to stop that, and we're pivoting, we're changing the way that this game's going to be. And if that's happened a couple of times over the course of a development cycle, it can lead to like some second guessing, maybe some people going like, I don't really feel like I know what we're trying to do here. And so by bringing in someone who not only has an outsider's perspective, but also has a very clear, passionate understanding of the Halo universe, he can probably come in and just go, all right, you, boom, Master Chief's helmet is green. Don't forget that. You, multiplayer needs a menu where you have join game or leave game. Poof. And he's just like grabbing these people together to try to drag them across the finish line. Because and then the other thing is that, with all the negative reaction to not only the trailer, but then the delay that got announced, at least this is like we're bringing in the guy that fans love. We're bringing in the dude who's responsible for the games that you love. So it's a bit of good news, I suppose, in a negative news cycle for Halo.
I guess my only thing is I see like reflections of this in the film industry, which I know is not comparable directly, but it does share some similarities in the terms of like getting that hotshot director to finally come in, your Whedons to fix Justice League, your Abrams to fix Star Wars. It's like sometimes it doesn't matter how much of a heavy hitter they are. If they're coming into something that's a fractured product and that has too many cooks and all that kind of stuff, I wonder sometimes is it going to be enough to really put it back on course? I always hope so.
I feel like they got Phoebe Waller-Bridge in to fix the James Bond script, and I feel like that can only be a good thing and make the movie better.
I'm so excited for that too, but I'm also cautious because I just think you're right when it just like, yeah, hopefully it does mean that someone steps in and really puts the ship back on course. But yeah, it's sad to know, or unsettling to know that there is still that kind of like caution happening in the production cycle as well. So we'll have to just wait and see.
I was texting. They brought Phoebe Waller-Bridge in to do what?
To spice up the Daniel Craig himself, wasn't it? Steph asked for.
Yeah. I think Craig, who I think has voiced publicly his fatigue with being James Bond.
Yeah, multiple times.
I think with the new script, he must have read it and been like, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is doing, she obviously is responsible for Fleabag, Killing Eve. She's done heaps of really great stuff, and he's brought her in because she's an incredible writer as she is an actor as well. So he's brought her in to kind of do a passover of the script and kind of spice it up a bit.
I did not know that at all. He read the script and he's like, there's just not enough conversation about anal beads. We need Phoebe Waller-Bridge just to come in here.
I love as well that they also, like with Bond, the last two films, he's like, I'm so tired and sick of this. And they're like, use that. Because the last two Bonds, it's just been tired Bond. And now it's like, we can't do that again.
Yeah. Use that. And also, you can make love to a human being made out of money. Because
I don't
that's
know.
also what you get.
I feel like that can go, I know we're kind of straying away from games and into Bond territory. But to bring it back, I feel like sometimes when they do that, it's just a bit like, I remember when like the Assassin's Creed 2 came out and Ezio was this cool, like flamboyant, like awesome character. And he was like grappling with the sort of Assassin Templar war, but he was still doing it in a fancy Italian way. And then like by Revelations or whatever, he's just like super grumpy and he has a beard and he's like, everything sucks and everyone needs to die. And I was like, Ezio?
Blame Batman, gritty reboots. Like everything's been gritty for too long. I think go back to flamboyance. Yeah.
All right. Well, we wish Halo good luck. I feel like with this news, we're just going to see 343 go dark for a few months and just go. We're going to heads down, figure this thing out, and then benefit from a new PR cycle, sort of early to mid next year when it's closer to release. All right. Moving on from Microsoft and now to Sony, who are trying to pull a bit of a Microsoft, I suppose, and are talking about wanting to bring more of their first-party games to PC. In their 2020 corporate report, Sony stated that it will, quote, explore expanding our first-party titles to the PC platform in order to promote further growth in our profitability. And there is sort of a caveat to this, I suppose, where then at the moment, at least, they're not talking about day-and-date release with stuff. They're talking more about how they've had Horizon Zero Dawn and Death Stranding and stuff come out on PC. Steph, you're a big... Sorry, go.
There is an agenda behind this move for sure. Like, as much as it seems like, oh, that's so cool, Sony are making their games more accessible and you don't have to buy a PlayStation. They're doing this, like, they're going to release Horizon Zero Dawn like right before the new game comes out so that you play it on PC and then you want to play the sequel and you're like, damn it, I guess I have to buy a PlayStation. So they're wanting to get you hooked on franchises if you don't have a PlayStation by releasing older games on PC enough that you'll want to buy the console to play the sequel.
Yeah, totally. Do you think that there's...
Business move.
You got that big business brain going on. You're not just a great cook who knows how to make a bechamel. Do you think that this is because the thing that Sony have at the moment is that you have to buy a PlayStation to play their games. You can't play them anywhere else. Microsoft have very much defined themselves as you can play our games on PC and here. You don't need to buy any specific hardware. Even though this is prompting you to buy the new Sony hardware, it still is a situation where you go, well, I could wait and play it in a couple of months. Like, Gus, you love Death Stranding. Death Stranding didn't come out that long ago and is also now on PC. Like, that was way shorter than the Horizon.
The usual turnaround, you're right, is, for example, like you said, Horizon. It's a huge gap between. I mean, it does just like quieten a little part in the back of my head that goes, when that game comes out, as you said, I will only be able to play it on a PlayStation. If I now have that slight little bit of hope in the back of my head that it's like, I don't want to rush out and buy this, I don't want to play this straight away, but it is something that I will want to play in my lifetime. For me, that's enough to say, like, all right, I can sit on that. I can wait till they come out with the 3 expansions for it that they'll bundle together when they release it on PC eventually down the line. And hopefully, well, I guess Death Stranding stayed at full release price the whole time it's been on PC, but maybe there's a discount in there. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Steph's saying. It is, she's spot on. It's like, it is entirely a business move. I think even the statement you read at the start, they're like, for profitability, we're going to do this. So it's like, they're not even putting it under the guise of that, like, we want the gamer to have the experience. They're like, for our bottom line. But
they're being transparent about it, I think. But also, I feel like, because when you think about, like, I've seen figures that show that console sales are like, have been sort of declining over the past sort of however long. And I don't know if that's just because we're nearing the end of a console generation, or if it's actually just like people are more inclined to buy a PC now and just be involved in PC gaming and things like that. But you think that for them, you know, if console sales really are kind of falling by the wayside and they need people to be consuming Sony games, maybe they do just need to start dipping a toe in the PC market.
Yeah.
And really, you only need to get one person. You only need to get people to buy a PlayStation 5 once, right? There just needs to be one game that you get them to jump over to that platform on. And then if you can still make money on the idea that you put out a game on PC 8 months after it comes out on the PlayStation platform, then you're still getting a bite of that cherry from that game. So, yeah, I think that... as much as, yes, you guys are right that it is a profitability thing, I think it's good that these games are coming to PC, particularly because, like, Death Stranding looks phenomenal on PC. Horizon looks phenomenal on PC. And we're going to be seeing, clearly PlayStation 5 is going to make everything look better. But having the option to play that stuff somewhere else, and particularly if you miss something, and the idea that, like, well, in a couple of months I might be able to play it on my PC instead, then that's that's just good for everyone, I suppose.
And I have faith. I know what you're saying, Steph, that like console sales overall are dwindling. I have faith that Sony are bringing back the console with a personality due to their design. I think consoles the sales are going down because they're turning into soulless black boxes. And now I see the new PS5 or whatever it's going to be, and I'm just like, that's my N64 again. That's that weird hunk of plastic that I want. People come into my house and go, "You've got a lovely decor. What the hell is that?" I'm like, "It's my PlayStation 5." I think that's going to rekindle a love for the console at home again.
I don't know. It's hard for me to get into the head of people who think that way, because I just want everything to be as like hidden as possible. I just want it all looking seamless, so my living room looks like a nice,
garish
thing. Yeah, that's right. And when I saw the design for the PS5, I'm like, this doesn't fit with my aesthetic at all.
Yeah, this doesn't look like a mountain. When I look at the two consoles, I think about picking up the Xbox Series X, and I'm like, it's just going to be like a dense box that there's that much plastic, and then it's just guts of machine and hardware and stuff.
You think it's going to weigh more than it feels?
Totally.
When you pick it up, like, oh,
it's like unobtainium or something. Yeah. But then I think about picking up the PS5, and it's like a bag of chips where it's 90% is just air, and then inside is just there's something that's like that big that runs the thing, but it's just like, we need to make sure this thing never overheats ever.
It's all cloud-based, so it's just a fan in there, and that's it.
Rusty the Caster said in the chat that, and hello, Rusty, how are you, buddy? I miss you already. I'm convinced that Gus is reading a script on the roof.
Oh, sorry.
No, you know what that is? Visual people look up when they think.
No, I have a giant TV
That's a
mounted on my
very
wall.
generous interpretation of what is actually happening, Steph.
Oh, really?
Sorry, I have 3 monitors. I have my the chat down here, the PC in front of me, and everyone's above me on a huge TV that I mounted on the wall. But I realized that is not a great eye line, so I'll adjust
Okay.
that.
I thought it was just part of your creative
genius?
brain. Yeah.
Let's go with that. Thank you. It's down here now.
That was a great save, Steph. That was. I'm sorry I said anything, Gus. You should have just rolled with that.
Yep.
All right, let's move on because obviously the first party big platform holders had some news, but the big news that sort of came out of the weekend is a ton of trailers from Gamescom. So we thought we'd just roll through a few of these, and most of these I actually haven't even seen yet.
There's been heaps, yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that we had seen before and we were expecting, but there were some surprises as well. Gus, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, I think I had a couple that I liked, but do you want to run through? Are you fine if I jump to those?
Yeah, go for it.
Great, yeah, because there were again, it was like an en masse of trailers, and so we saw a whole range, both of quality, but I think all incredibly ambitious creatively. And the couple that stuck out to me, this one was called Speed Limit.
Is that you walking onto a train?
No, it's basically these cool little pixel scenarios or pixelated scenarios from cliched action films that transition one into another.
This is such a Gus pick.
It
totally is. I saw this and I felt very much this is my style of game. Almost like an endless runner that just shifts between this and then into this cool perspective where you're just hooning along either a motorbike, a sports car, and a helicopter. It's like the 80s personified in a chase sequence. And outside of that, I didn't have much more to say about it than it just looks cool. It looks like something that would just hold my attention for the right amount of time. But again, there was some very ambitious creative games shown off, and this is one that just really caught my eye. Kiwi looks adorable, which is basically about a couple of birds. They're called kiwi birds, right? What am I thinking of? What are the New Zealand?
Yeah, Kiwis. That's it.
They're called
Kiwi. Yeah.
Yeah. They're running a post office. And so it looks like a possible sort of co-op game where you and a number of other Kiwis have to run this old-fashioned post office. But the best part about it is they'll show it in a moment. You have to type messages and stamp letters and send them off to other. Well, I was going to say to other birds. So it's like a cassowary is delivering the mail. It just looked really, really original and really creative.
It's adorable.
Kind of that overcooked
cute
vibe to it, which I really thought was cool. But a very, very cute aesthetic there as well.
Who is coming up with these games? You're right, Steph. You're right. Gus has such a type when it comes to video games.
It's mainly bird mail delivery and 80s pixel games. Yeah. Right. But this just looked really cute and had a really nice vibe to it as well, and a lovely art style. And then the third one that I saw that I really liked, which again is totally up my alley, is called, I think it's Epic Fight Night. Hey, it's the voice of God.
They can't hear him,
Midnight
so
Fight
it's
Express
just you're insane.
Is a brawler, an isometric brawler that has actually what looks like a really complex fighting system. Looks like great mocap for what is usually just a top-down arcade game. Some awesome moves and just channeling a heap of old action movies. There's scenes in there that look like they're paying homage to cool films like Kingsman and Mission Impossible, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And whether or not this is a multiplayer game, but just really brutal looking kind of Hotline Miami violence, but done in what looks like a kind of fun, dark, very well polished looking brawler. And then at the end here, there's sort of a Hotline Miami pillow fight. So obviously some very dark humor in there as well. But those are the ones that stood out to me.
What is this terrifying world that we live in where all these brawlers have people wearing animal masks on?
Yeah.
It just seems to be if you want to go beat people up in the street, you need to dress like a half horse.
Because the other one is the new Ubisoft
Watch Dogs Legion. Yeah.
Yeah, they're channeling that whole thing as well. So very creepy, but that looks kind of fun.
Yeah, cool. Steph, what caught your eye?
I want to talk about Unknown 9 Awakening.
What a
very strange, very avant-garde looking. And I say that because I hadn't seen anything about this game before. It's set in Calcutta. It's a narrative game. Looks beautiful. And the developer is called Reflector, and I really knew nothing about them. I've never really heard anything about them. So I was just trying to kind of get a sense of who they are and what kind of game they're making. And I went to their website and I was like, look, these developers have names that are very French. And of course, they're based in Montreal. Frédéric Robichaud, Alexandre Amancio, Marie-Lou Lacasse, Naomi Lecuyer.
Wow.
And they have this very I don't want to say wanky, but wanky website that like talks about their aim to kind of create what they call story worlds. So I went to their Instagram, and on Instagram they say, what is a story world? It's an ever-expanding universe that tells story across multiple platforms or media. Each story is complementary but also stands on its own. Therefore, if you experience them all, they tell a broader narrative that expands the overall mythology. And we're interweaving narratives and characters across films, video games, novels, podcasts, comics, and beyond. So they've got like a very broad and ambitious scope, which kind of worries me because like it could be a bit scattered. And I don't know if this is going to be just a game or this is a game based on other, a novel or a graphic novel or a movie, or maybe multiple things are in development.
Or a podcast that we don't know about yet.
Yeah. So, but this is one of the story worlds that they are working on. And I don't know if this is just the beginning for their sort of branching empire of narrative things.
Well, what was the title again? It was Unknown 9 Awakening.
Unknown 9 : Awakening.
I'm always with a capital K in Awakening. Is there
a dash in the middle? I'm always thrown when you get a new IP or something that feels like a new IP that has those sort of split titles that make you think like, is this some sort of anthology, or are they setting up the universe before they've even managed to tell one good story in it? And you're like,
Look, it's very ambitious because like you have to have a lot of faith in your IP if you feel like people are going to consume it across multiple mediums. Like usually like it's only just now that we're thinking about how long comics have been around. And it's really only now that they're hitting their stride in film. So it's like you have to really build a franchise for people to be like, you know what, I want this in everything. But they're like, this story will interact directly and indirectly with the rest of the Unknown 9 story world. Threads started in other products are picked up in another. This game feeds into the comic that feeds into the podcast.
No.
And vice versa. And connections are direct, such as intersecting characters or artifacts, and other are more subtle or even hidden. I'm very confused. And like the trailer didn't show us a lot except for like a beautiful girl running through a street in Calcutta, and which excites me because it's like a place that I haven't spent a lot of time in video games, and I'm excited for that to be explored. But also just all of the other terminology surrounding this game and these developers gives me red flags.
Yeah, I mean, this is wildly French. But the trailer looked interesting. Obviously, there's no gameplay or anything, but the idea of she enters some sort of like spirit ghost world where she can interact in a different way with people. And like you said, the thing that, by far, the thing that is most interesting to me about this is that it's set in Calcutta. Like, that's just an environment I have such a little understanding of, and you rarely see in games. I think that this, Gus, you're spot on with the idea of like creating the world before you've told one interesting story. Not to say that it can't be done, but I feel like so often when people come out with these ambitious stories projects, it's just like you're just splitting your focus. And particularly if the idea of you ideally you consume them all to be able to really feel the synergy between it, just means that you're splitting off interesting parts of your story that could have gone into one thing. And
or whether or not you're right that it's in telling that story, they're already giving themselves the out of they've got multiple other ways that they could tell this, so they don't need to tie up loose ends or finish complete their story or their narrative in this one game, which is sometimes quite unfulfilling because you just know they're like, oh, we're going to branch out and tell this, it's going to spin off into multiple different stories that we're never actually going to finish, that kind of thing, which is
so apparently there is already a novel trilogy, a comic book series, and a scripted podcast that you can consume right now.
Okay.
Wait, that I can
already
read right now.
Yes.
Oh.
If you go to unknown9.com and scroll sort of halfway down, it just shows you the Unknown 9 universe that they are sort of in the process of
creating. Well, it sounds like we're being quite skeptical now, and they've put a lot of creative energy into this. So, I mean, yeah, probably
Well,
worth
it's
doing.
more just that, like, it's like they're putting all of their eggs in one basket, right? Like, well, that's a bad analogy because they're doing lots of different things, but it's
Heaps
like
of baskets.
Heaps of baskets, and expecting people to like, it's a very bold play, I suppose.
How tasty are the eggs? That's what we're really looking at here.
Let me give you the opening page of the novel. Prologue, Tyrrhenian Sea, Palermo, Naples route, March 1938. Unused to the roll of the open sea, Ettore Majorna kept losing his footing as he hefted the leather satchel across the upper deck of the mail boat. Ettore was a theoretical physicist, not a sailor, nor did he travel very well. Adding to his disorientation, the ship at night was very dark as the Sicilian hilltops upon which he had stargazed as a boy.
Wow.
Cool. So you can read the first part of the first novel, get the next part of Genesis September 17th on Unknown 9. So, they're starting this early as well. It's a PS5 exclusive game. There's no release date. Given there's no gameplay, I can't imagine it's coming out anytime soon. So
I'll give the scripted podcast a go. I'll listen to the first episode and see if it's in any way as engaging
as Nick's audiobook read. I want to hear the whole thing now.
if you like, you could send me the podcast. I'll transcribe it and then I'll just re-record it for you and send it back. And I'll read at least one more paragraph of that book. In the chat, That's Not My Robot says, I kind of love their ambition. And Grim Pixel sounds like they're dipping their toe in everything and seeing which sells better. And I like the idea that they're like, well, we could produce this podcast, which theoretically we could do for free, or we could make a multi-million-dollar video game. And let's just see which one sells better.
I feel like graphic novels, maybe like a series of novels. Like, again, the franchise needs to be beloved before people want to go and consume the lore in novel form. Like, only the nerdiest of Halo nerds do I know have read the Halo accompanying books.
That's you married one. That's it. Yes. You did. Oh my god, he fucking loves those books so much. There's a few people in the chat say, why hasn't Nick done any audiobooks? I'd let him read it to me. If you want me to read a page from your favorite book, just tweet it to me and I'll record some of them.
That's a Patreon tier we haven't created yet.
Totally. Steph, did anything else catch your eye?
Fall Guys Season 2, we've seen is going to be all the joy of Fall Guys Jelly Bean madness, but with some medieval style races, which looks cool. It's still very much in the spirit of like the candy colored Takeshi's Castle style stuff, but with more like swinging blades and like little castle turret things to kind of make your way through. I think it looks really cool. Look at that. And look at the costumes, wizards and dragons. Oh my gosh. It's just beautiful.
It's really wonderful to see a game that doesn't require, like, that can so easily come up with so many new levels and variables, like, just because it is such a simple premise. It's quite refreshing to not have to reinvent your game every time. Like, they can just tweak a few modes, change a few map layouts, and everyone is just, so keen for it. So
totally. And it's coming at just the right time too, because I feel like Fall Guys Mania hit so hard. People were just slamming this game really intensely, and it's already, I can see it, like, people starting to get an element of fatigue with the sort of playing through the same levels. And it's just when you finally get to that point and they're like, hey, here's like a whole bunch of new ones. It's just genius.
The Gus, from an artistic perspective, I'm very impressed with Fall Guys. The way that their color palette is so bright and so simple, I suppose, but the game is not messy to look at. I think that's a real achievement.
Oh, they're definitely like, they've found a nice sort of pastel tone to everything. But you're right. It's like you can throw every color in there and it's not predominantly feeling like a rainbow vomit kind of that would turn a lot of people off. There's definitely a designer eye behind the whole thing as well. And again, just those like, whether or not they landed on those little jelly bean guys by default and just went like, let's have the most simplified little characters because then you can dress them up and play around with them kind of thing. I would say that, like, even though I've complimented something like Fortnite in the past for having, like, I know people don't love that art style, but I think it's cohesive at least. Like, the more they add to that, the more it turns me off. So I don't think Fall Guys will go in the same direction because it does have such like a nice, simple sort of, that sort of, adorable art style.
Already seeing in those clips there that they've included more aggressive ways to force people to work together, meaning that you have to push those blocks up to the wall in order for everyone to be able to get up. And it's like, I can already see myself getting frustrated with the people who are just standing back waiting for that to happen so that they can be the first on the block and over the wall.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, for whatever reason, sometimes I resent the success of Fortnite as though I am developing my own battle royale and I feel like I'll never now achieve it. But I just am so happy for Fall Guys. I just think it's such an awesome game. Okay. So, and the one trailer that I want to add to this, because we did see, like we said, Gus definitely has a type. All of his games were very much of that. Steph, you fell directly into your type as well, which is immersive RPGs or just like adorable, dumb multiplayer enjoyment. And
with
I feel
the
like
most ambitious like descriptors of the universe
totally.
that they're building.
And I feel like I'm hitting my type directly on the head as well, which is weird story, weird mechanic gameplay short games. So this is 12 minutes. And we've been hearing about this game for years. I've been waiting for this game for years. It was supposed to come out, and it got delayed, and then people stopped talking about it. They stopped sort of like telling us anything. For those of you who don't know, you basically it's this top-down game the entire time where you're playing the same 12-minute loop where someone comes in and murders one of you, and then you need to figure out how to stop this happening by just replaying this scenario over and over again. And the significant thing that they announced with this is the cast, which is Daisy Ridley, Willem Dafoe, and James McAvoy, which is a huge voice cast for a tiny indie game, which makes me think that it could be phenomenal because clearly this was not the voice cast when they started the game. And so it's they've basically made the game, shown it to them, and these people have gone, oh yeah, I'm into this. And that's really all I have to say about this, other than I cannot wait for it. And it's supposed to be out by the end of the year.
Willem Dafoe, it feels like he's moving into his like ideal genre of video games now after Beyond Two Souls. I feel like he did so well in that game, and he's just like weird enough to want to really take charge of video games as a narrative medium. So I'm not surprised at all to see his name there. Daisy Ridley was like super surprising to me. I didn't think she was at a point in her career where she wanted to be involved in like a weird, indie game. But I guess like looking at it, it's impressive enough and unique enough to want to kind of draw the attention of people who are looking for something that's like creatively a little bit more unique.
I guess also like she's a younger generation, so she's probably around video games, so she gets it as a medium more than say like a like an older actor. I mean, Willem Dafoe's also, is he in he did his, I think he did the voice for Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 for that game. And is he in
Spider-Man
Star Citizen? What's that game?
Oh, the one that has like Mark Hamill and everyone in it.
Yeah,
that's got a huge cast in it. I feel like you might be right there that he's definitely done another project that I've seen him in.
Yeah, he might not be in that, but but maybe he is. Yes, he is. So yes, very exciting. And James McAvoy, that's a good get as well. So anyway, that game's supposed to be out by the end of the year, and I'm so pumped for that.
And from everything we've seen, and given the fact that it is also a time loop kind of game, I wonder if it's one of those sit and consume in one session kind of games where it's like it does have like almost a cinematic approach. So you sit down and there's like a good 1 to 2 to maybe 3 hours of just getting to the end of this game, putting it down and then suggesting it to someone else, come and sit down, you have a play of this kind of thing. Because again, I wonder, voice acting and having a really stellar cast like that, how many variables that often dictates, like if the game is a 6-hour game, which I know it's a small indie, it's not going to be, but like whether or not that focuses the narrative, because you've got such high paid, interesting actors doing a limited run of voices and line variations in there as well. So I'd like it to be that shorter, really distilled experience, I think.
I think it definitely is. Steph, so Sith Cat just mentioned this in the chat. I looked it up. Daisy Ridley was interviewed by Entertainment Weekly about this game, and she said that she got the call to do this game after she spent the first couple of months going to 2020, going to auditions and getting nothing after Rise of Skywalker. So she said that she's having trouble getting acting gigs because Star Wars was so huge, and now she was like, "Oh, it seems like no one wants to employ me."
Well, she's Luke Skywalkering.
Oh wow! I mean, I've heard that can happen. There's a similar thing with the actor that played Aladdin in the live action remake. I saw a heartbreaking interview with him where he was just like, it was such a huge movie, and it was like the launch pad for my career, and I was kind of prepping myself for like, you know, my career to really take off after it, and then I just didn't book a single job.
I really
like a year.
Daisy Ridley.
So do I, and I like that. I love that actor who played Aladdin. He was amazing.
Right, I turned that movie off after the first song, but he was good. Good man.
I saw it with my nieces. It was nice. I really liked it. But yeah, I just that can totally happen sometimes. I know she's been in a few things. I saw her in Ophelia and Murder on the Orient Express and stuff like that. So she's definitely been doing some stuff, but yeah, I mean, people aren't bashing a door down the way she probably thought they would, because they're just like, holy crap, this is like, your face is so recognizable now.
Yeah.
And also, like, you imagine similar thing that's happening everywhere. It's just Hollywood's shut down a little bit as well. So maybe you only got your sure things being greenlit and less options for even your mainstream actors like her as well. So, not to blame COVID, but you wonder, Oh,
well, we'll get to enjoy her in 12 minutes, and we are the winners in that scenario. But we also, Steph, we saw a bit of Dragon Age concept art as well.
Yes, very exciting. So I think the trailer that I saw as well from the sort of like teaser trailer, and it was more like a developer diary, I suppose, just seems so wholesome. This seems like a studio that I want to work at. I love BioWare, and I love how good they are at being like, we're really committed to creating like everything that you love about this franchise and making it better and giving you cool story options and cool characters. And it just makes me really like excited about the game that they're making, because it feels like it's going to be an homage to everything that people love about Dragon Age, but kind of new and interesting as well. And I'm excited for like whatever visual upgrade is coming.
Totally. I think this is one of the first kind of like BioWare next-gen games. So if we excuse Mass Effect Andromeda and put that in the pile.
Anthem. Like, do we have faith in BioWare at the moment? If they don't land this one, I mean, because the BioWare that we knew is kind of gone. You had Mass Effect Andromeda. You had Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect Andromeda, and then Anthem, and you just see a sliding scale of quality, I feel. And
there was a Dragon Age that wasn't as loved, the most recent one, I thought. Was that correct?
The Inquisitions.
Inquisition.
Yeah.
I liked Inquisitions. It just had some pacing issues where the first sort of half of that game was the first area, which most people sort of got, or a lot of people got fatigued on and didn't get out of, and then you realized, the game really opens up once you move out of that initial.
Well,
space.
I've never touched a Dragon Age, so I was going to ask Steph: is the idea here is that this is a follow-on, I believe, because it looks like there's some cast and characters, so this is a continuation of that universe.
Yeah, I think there's speculation that it's set in. Sorry, let me just find it.
That beard, amazing.
To chat will be able to tell me.
But yeah, these voice actors that are soulless, and these characters that seem like obviously fan faves that
Tevinter Knights.
Tevinter. That the only character that you know will play a part in the events of our Dragon Age 4 is probably going to be Deadwolf himself. Is kind of what people are saying.
Gus, what made you not play a Dragon Age? I'm surprised you haven't actually played any.
Yeah, I was just a big fan of. It wasn't like I was picking from one camp or the other with Mass Effect, but I really love the Mass Effect series. I know this isn't correct because people have a real love for this series, but it just felt a bit too generic sci-fi for me. Generic fantasy for me. When I saw, I think, Dragon Age 1 and 2, it just felt like taking what BioWare do and giving it a bit of a fantasy coat of paint. But obviously I've been proven wrong. There are characters that people really love, and there's like a really interesting world that people care for. I think at that same time I was probably in Skyrim, and I was like getting my fantasy fix from that. Look, I don't know. I don't think I'll go back and play those games, but I will definitely be keen to give this a go. If not just because it's as Steph said before, it's like going to really test the hardware of a next gen, and I haven't had my fantasy fix for a while. You're right. I've been too coding it up and militarying it up recently that I need a bit of a fantasy fix. So this could be it.
Well, you will have to wait a while because there's no release date and it's very far away. But yeah, I like Dragon Age.
Everything that I'm reading about it, that I have been reading about it, is very much speculation as well. It's like, I think there was a version of this game that was like abandoned, and then they kind of resurrected it again with a different idea. So I think we're still kind of getting sort of dribs and drabs of what will happen. But I think it's like we can be reasonably optimistic that it will be good. It's such a beloved franchise, and I don't think it necessarily needs to. And look, there was a lot of people that really enjoyed Andromeda. It just struggled with some animation issues.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry, Matt, you go.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that Andromeda had a bit of an issue of existing. Like, why does this need to exist? It just felt like Mass Effect put such a bow on its story that you don't need another one. Dragon Age is, and then Anthem had its thing where it's like, we're trying to make a live service game and we're trying to get you to play this forever. Live service games, I feel like live service games just actually never launch strong. I don't think any of them have like, even Destiny was like, cool, play it for a month. What do I do now? Whereas, Dragon Age has a reason to continue. And I do think that this trailer is very much like, all right, we know what we've done in the past, but look at these faces. Look at these textured, real people faces, and we're just going to spin around them slowly. Like, you couldn't hate this person, could you? Not in slow motion and a soft focus. He won't let you down.
And also when they're attaching them to really charming footage of all the voice actors working from home doing all their lines, it's like, don't let these guys are trying really hard as well. So yeah, I have total faith in the game. I just haven't played the series.
Matt says worried about that with Avengers, which yes, I mean Avengers is. I'm concerned about Avengers, but I'm still going to play it, see what happens, and we do have a little bit of Avengers here at the end of the night. At the end of the day, Star Wars, Steph. Sorry, not Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars. Sims 4 and Star Wars.
I'm so surprised this hasn't happened sooner. It seems like such a no-brainer for EA. Like. I think it looks awesome. And the trailer makes it look really cool. I'm just curious as to like how much you can, because I want to immerse myself in a whole Sims world of Star Wars. And I want it to look like this basically. So, I don't want like a random Star Wars house in the middle of a regular kind of setting. So I hope you can choose the whole like world and fully just be like a Sims character in a Star Wars universe.
Yeah, so you basically it's like Lego, where you just go, I'm just buying the Star Wars Lego now, and I can make an entire universe out of this.
But typically with expansions, it's like you get a bunch of like skins and extra stuff that you can add into it. But like I want this.
Does this look like it's quite narrative focused? I know Sims has really evolved in a way now that you do go on like quests and stories and step away from just purely the life building kind of thing. From everything I can see in this, it does seem like you go on an adventure, or you take your Sim somewhere and I would love to see a Sims version.
You can apparently choose to align yourself with the light or the dark side of the Force.
Yeah, right.
See, like when I see something like that, like I don't necessarily, like I feel like that's a bit naff to have just a random Star Wars house in the middle of because I'm all about like 100% immersion, even in The Sims. I want to be immersed fully.
Does that mean, can we see that trailer again, like the second half of that trailer again? Because does that mean that like that was cool. I feel like you skin the game. The inside looks really cool. Like you can, like they made a very big open space in there that doesn't look like a house. But does that mean that the outside, you're going to have a suburban neighborhood that just have Star Wars houses? So you could build a whole neighborhood, but there's still like roads with little picket fences.
Yeah.
But then just you go inside and it's like, oh, this is much bigger on the outside than
but that's why I was confused by the trailer, because so much of that early trailer stuff makes it look like you can fully go to a Star Wars world.
From my understanding of where the Sims were going, I think the idea is that you can take your character on this adventure and that you can travel to a location, which is kind of like going on a holiday. You can meet NPCs there. They can maybe travel back. And then you're probably either unlocking or you have unlocked stuff to bring back from that adventure to put on in and around your house. So it's like a skin pack for the house in your regular Sims life. And then there is this adventure where, as you said, Steph, you can align yourself with one side of the goodies and the baddies, and there's maybe some quests to go on in that idea, because I think
so
that's
you get
what
to
Sims
go
are
to
turning into.
Batu, you don't get to live on Batu.
Look, I'm speculating that, but I think that's kind of what they're going for with the kind of like you take an adventure somewhere else, which
it says you progress through the story, you'll unlock new rewards like Starfighter access, new outfits. And
so you can come back and slap on something like a land speeder out in your front lawn, which just looks totally inappropriate. But there will be people who love doing that, I'm sure.
So it's just like, it's like Luke Skywalker lives on Earth, but then travels to other places in the galaxy, but then just comes back to his like regular house at the end of the day.
Totally.
And it's not on fire with his aunt and uncle burning out the front of it this time. So
I had a look at I had a quick look at the Sims 4 subreddit this morning, and they were a lot of people not happy about this, I would say, because it's kind of like this is not what we're actually looking for. But that being said, I feel like The Sims has done a lot of weird stuff. Is
this the first time they've brought
expansions,
a franchise, like a known franchise, into their game?
like an IP?
Yeah, possibly.
Because I mean, and sure, but to me, this makes me like The Sims even more, because of the idea of like The Sims is just one of those games that I've never really got into, but I love the idea of playing. I like to look at Sims things from afar, and I guess the beautiful thing about it is you never need to engage with any of this. Like, you've had 30 expansions where it's like, hey, here's 40 different kinds of cribs. Like, here's just one expansion where here's some lightsabers. I don't know. It's gonna
Phoenix O'Lion says they did a pseudo Harry Potter expansion, but not branded Harry Potter. So it was
so there was like a Wizards and Magic expansion.
Yeah, I think they've kept their finger on the pulse of what's culturally
they've
going
collaborated
around at that
with
time
IKEA.
Expansion.
Apparently.
Somebody said Stranger Things, so that's like a known IP that they
interesting.
would have brought in. Yeah, interesting.
Okay, cool.
The one thing I did take away from this trailer as well is I got a very Lego-esque vibe, because they have these characters playing out little scenes from Star Wars or Star Wars scenarios with the Simlish voices and that very expressive kind of sort of miming or pantomiming kind of, which made me think like, I could see this, because I think Lego's done it. I could see this as a TV series. Like, I could see Sims as a show now that's like almost like voiceless in the way that it just does characters moving around, speaking that quirky little language. Like, people have made films in The Sims. Like, I could see them slapping the skins sort of aesthetic over so many different IPs out there and just making it like these quirky little YouTube shows. So, because I found that really entertaining.
I think there is a Sims show already. I don't know if they speak Simlish
it's a Sims,
in it.
There's the Sims reality show. Where they get people to build. There's a Katy Perry Sims expansion. What the hell?
Wow.
Katy Perry's Sweet Treats.
Oh, that makes sense.
Lord. This game, this is one of those games. To me, The Sims is like more in the like hardcore gamer universe than something like Roblox. But it is one of those games where I go like, oh yeah, I always just peripherally hear things about The Sims, and then when I really dive in, I'm like, what the hell is going on in here?
I play The Sims so poorly. I only like the base version. I like to build my house and populate it with people I know, and then just sit back and watch. It's like I don't use any of the sort of fantasy escapism stuff. I just purely build. I'm like, that doesn't look exactly like my couch, but it's close enough.
Jack still says, didn't they do a medieval pack when Game of Thrones was at its peak? I'm not sure, but they did release a separate game called Sims Medieval, which was kind of more of an RPG-focused game. Like, it gave you actual proper quests to go on. Right. And it was actually probably the most fun I've had in a Sims game, because it was like, it felt focused, a bit more structured in a way that I was used to. Also, there was this weird, like, sort of... a pit in the middle of the sort of land that you could throw people into when they were when they upset you, or not, just for the fun of it.
Maybe they'll do a Sarlacc pit with this one, so they'll just do the same
thing. Yeah, that's good. And you just take the ladder out. Gus, I like the fact that you are one of the most creative people I know, and you go, when I play The Sims, I just build my house and I have my people. When I play Flight Simulator, the first thing I'm going to do is fly from Sydney to Melbourne.
I want to see it replicated. I agree, though. The Flight Sim stuff's less kind of like serial killery than like build the house and just watch them from above and be like, that's what he's doing today.
Yes. You love me, don't you? All right. And then one more gameplay thing that sort of came out of Gamescom was some Ratchet and Clank gameplay running. And I don't have too much to say about this other than I think that this is one of the things, one of the sort of like PS5 games coming out where you go, at first blush, it doesn't look particularly different until you just realize how much stuff is happening on screen right now. There is just so much going on, and there is so much that's interactive. Obviously, the game is built around the idea that these other dimensions open up, but this sort of like long look at the gameplay was very heartening to me. That this makes me more excited about getting a PS5 straight away, because they've also said that this is coming in the launch window, which they had not announced before. So Miles Morales and this confirmed for launch window, whatever that is.
Which is really important to have those launch games, especially with what Microsoft's doing currently and like having nothing exclusive. So you're right, every one of these they can chalk up is a huge advantage.
I'm wondering if they... this was not originally the case, and
did they fast track it?
Yeah, or even if they haven't fast tracked it, maybe they have expanded the idea of what the launch window is to include it. Because it is that situation where the conversation has been for a couple of weeks now. What games are we getting with these consoles? Microsoft have well documented the idea of how they're sort of floundering with a reason to buy this console on day one. PS5 had Miles Morales as being something that's sort of confirmed for that, and not a huge amount else. And then we're seeing this as well to go like, hey, here's another reason why you should upgrade to us as opposed to an Xbox Series X.
Do you ever get like graphical evolution blindness, where it's just like, I've played a bunch of Ratchet and Clank, and when I see this now, I'm like, it's always looked this good, just because I'm used to games now looking this way, that when I see Ratchet and Clank looking so good, I'm like, it doesn't look any different, because it's almost like my brain has now evolved with the current graphical quality, that I don't remember it looking worse than this.
Yes, I get that all the time. I think like Halo is a great example of of that sort of series, which is what they were kind of that was their justification of going, it actually looks way better than you thought it did. You just remember it looking better than it did. But stuff like this, where you just go, there are so many particles, so many things are exploding. That thing of like, there's those dimensions that he rips and it removes everything. That is like, I have never seen that in a game before. That is really impressive.
It's very ambitious, and I think one of the bits of feedback originally when they showed off some of this game, I think when it was announced, is there was speculation over whether or not this is a pre-rendered scene where they had a lot of the characters moving between those dimensions, falling. That could have still been cutscene, but it was in engine, because what we're seeing here is pretty much on par with those graphics, and the way it just transitioned between a cutscene that looked incredibly like Saturday morning cartoon animated and straight back into the game. And Nick, you're right, there is like, in terms of just how much is happening off in the distance, out windows, particles, that kind of stuff. What I really love about this is, for me, this feels like they've taken sort of a lesson out of... It's got that same technical ambition that... Knack had when they were releasing PS3, and they were like, was Knack a launch title, I feel? Like, or it was
yes, it was. Yeah.
It was that launch title that everyone was like, here's a game that we've used as an excuse to show off a heap of technical prowess with this new system. But then the game comes out and like it gets a medium sort of lukewarm response, and people are like, I'm not really connecting with the characters. And it did just feel like a glorified tech demo. And I think it's the really smart move here is to attach it to a beloved franchise. I haven't played a heap of Ratchet and Clank, but I want to play this, and I know that people have a love for it that I think is having far more fun than just, he's an excuse for a game.
It's got heaps of personality, and it's got quite a lovely story too of him as like, I think when I was playing it, he was like the last known Lombax, and so he was trying to like, find other Lombaxes in the universe, and the various villains are very quirky and funny and stuff as well. But it's just been like grade A platforming, that I'm excited to see how those aspects of it will be explored in this game.
And the weapons story is a big part, isn't it? It's like, it's always like these cool invented, like you can see just how often they're switching between them.
Really cool.
The more I watch this, I'm so excited for this. And the last Ratchet and Clank, I was like, yeah, this is fun. And I played 3/4 of it and I put it down. But I just feel like I have just not seen this whole like portal universe dimension hopping thing anywhere. And this is this to me is something that I'm totally going to upgrade straight away.
There were a lot of braid style time puzzles in one of the ones that I played as well. That was really cool.
Yes, yeah.
And obviously it's a super combat heavy what we're seeing here. But you're right, like Nick, I could see myself playing this, and even if the gameplay wasn't exactly tickling the part of me that wants to like get into like a hardcore third-person shooter, I think I'd just be smiling because of how much work it's doing. And then you get moments like this. This is unbelievable. Like
that is insane.
Yeah, as a way to get you from one area to another.
And to think kids kids are going to grow up with games like this thinking this is just normal.
Yeah. Oh, they are so spoiled.
They're going to be so unappreciative.
One last thing I'll say is that someone in chat, Steph, when you were talking about how thinking games look better than they did, Nicrotech said Uncharted was big for this. That's so true. Every Uncharted game, you're like, oh, this is what they all all look like, and then you go back and play Uncharted 1. And you're like,
I even played the remastered one, and even with the remaster, playing one was like, oof, I don't remember it being this rough.
Quickly before we finish on this, I do want to just point out that that scene of traveling through the portals to get somewhere, it does look very on rails, literally on rail at one point. But I love the idea of if this is like a total on rails moment that takes you from one combat moment to the next, in similar way to something like an Uncharted, where it's like you have just enough control to feel like you're playing in that cutscene. I think that does the job perfectly and just leaves you jaw on the floor kind of. Again, it's just these little, if they are just these little moments that let you have a little pause between those actual moments where you're running around third person, I think it's just a really clever way to just make the spectacle ramp it up like crazy before you get back into the fight. So I'm super keen for this now, Nick. I'm with you. This looks amazing. I've lost Nick's voice. We've lost Nick's voice. Has he muted himself out of amazement? Or has he just decided that some headphones have disconnected? He was smiling when he said it, so I feel like whatever it was either backing me up. So I think we've lost comms with Nick out of... Oh, sorry. So, Steph, is that another Lombax? That's the idea? One of his species?
I wasn't watching. I didn't see it.
There's a blue female-looking one that drops in right at the end. So I imagine that plays into what you were talking about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay, so that has more impact for people who have followed the series than me. He's back. There he is. All good. No, all good.
Yeah, somebody mentioned A Crack in Time. That's totally the one that I'm remembering as A Crack in Time. It was amazing. And yeah, I remember him searching for another Lombax, and so his race is almost extinct, but not quite.
I think Nick might still be muted on the main call we're doing, so he'll fix that up. The only thing I'll just finish with quickly, because we've gone on a lot about Ratchet and Clank, is that the audience that are playing that game, you're right, have been growing up with that since PlayStation 1, 2, I want to say, maybe not. So it's a game that needs to sort of entertain a lot of older gamers who have seen a lot but played a lot of different sort of formats. So I think it's not just going to be a kids game because it's got cute characters. It looks like it's going to be asking a lot.
I think so. Okay, that should be all good. And I have no idea what just happened. That was nothing changed. Anyway, moving on. Stephanie, Call of Duty is going to have multiple endings. This is the convergence of what Gus loves, which is Call of Duty, and what you love, which is games
branching narrative.
That you have to play 40 times.
I have to say, I laughed so much when I heard that. It just seemed so out of character, highbrow for Call of Duty to be like, you can affect the outcome of the story. It's like, I mean, it's cool. It's cool they're doing it. It certainly looks like it's like going along with such a cool setting. To be able to give you the option to, I'm not sure how branching the narrative will be or how different the endings will be, if it'll just be small aspects of a same central conclusion, or if there'll be wildly different outcomes to your gameplay. But I think it's cool that they're doing it. It's never a bad thing in my opinion. I love the more kind of narrative risks people take, the better, I say. And if it's coming to Call of Duty, then it's only lifting the caliber of storytelling in games across the board even more. So I'm all for it.
It was in Blops 2. Correct. They had 8 endings, I think, over the course of the game. But they were it was if you complete all these strike missions and Alex and some girl or something survive at the end, then you get this. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much you can does the Cold War just become very hot at the end and everyone launches their nukes if you fail? Is that the sort of the level of different storytelling?
That would definitely be the worst outcome possible.
Yeah.
It's funny because, Black Ops 2 was the one that said, we're going to do this branching narrative stuff. And you're right, Nick, a lot of it was tied into doing these optional missions in between, I think, that were the strikes. But also there were some real video game moments where the way they did the branching paths, or it was just you made a bunch of decisions and then at the end it would get tallied and give you a different ending, which look, I'll be honest, it's the cheap way to do multiple endings because they're not branching paths. It's like you've just got 6 to 8 different cutscenes you're going to play with variations of dialogue, or sometimes they just reorder how the scenes play out slightly. And obviously it makes the most sense so everyone gets the similar gameplay experience. But there were those moments where there were decisions and there were like a character standing at a hallway that goes left and right. And he's like, well, what do you want to do, Mason? And it's like left or right or kill, don't kill. And it would come up and it was like, oh, I'm in a video game. Like there was nothing very organic about it or didn't make it feel like you were in a rich narrative experience. However, I think, like you said, Steph, any attempt to kind of add some complexities, even if it is just like occasional left and right choices over what I think is, for someone who loves COD, I find the single player games so linear that I can feel the coding all the time. I think Nick's dropped out again.
Are you kidding me?
Oh no, sorry, you haven't. You looked exacerbated.
He was just listening intently.
Oh, I see. Like, I don't love the campaigns because I can feel the rails, I can feel the walls the whole way through. I don't think this will alleviate that, but I do think it'll cause me to maybe go back and retry a few missions and have a bit more fun in what looks like them trying to lean hard into the successful Black Ops 1 campaign, more so than 2 ever got to with its sort of weird future
I just
stuff.
feel like it always raises the stakes, right? Like you're more invested in the decisions you make, if they're going to change whether or not you have an ending that involves everyone blowing up or not, potentially. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. I think even if it's the cheapest, dumbest, most whatever version, I will always go, if there's multiple endings, I will always go to YouTube and be like, okay, what did I miss out on? Like, what are the other things?
It doesn't cause you to replay, does it? It causes you to just look up those, or go back one mission and go.
It depends how bad the ending was that you got, like true. I'll settle for like medium ending, but if it's the worst possible ending, I'm like, nah, I'm replaying it. When I was playing Detroit Become Human, like they're like, don't make sure you complete a full playthrough. Don't go back and like restart sections because that's not how we intended you to play this game. And then I got somebody killed halfway through and I was like, I can't handle it. I have to replay. And I was streaming it too. People were like, don't do it, Steph. Play the a pure experience. And I was like, screw you, Chad. I'm doing it. I'm replaying it. I can't believe it. He's done.
I mean, that's very true. It does depend. Like if the ending is that, if the ending of this one of them is like, Nixon comes back as president, then I'm like, all right, I'm going to need to replay this because that's just bullshit. I
was going to say to Steph, I don't think I'll have this, or people will have the same love and attachment to these characters where it's like, you got generic white bearded protagonist number 2 killed. It's like, yeah, moving on. It's fine.
Okay, and then the final one, because we don't need to talk about Marvel, because it's just, we'll just see what happens with
that
this
story. Confused me and angered me. And if you want to look up that story about the current system of currencies, look it up yourself, because I don't want to talk about that.
There's 11 currencies, and it's terrifying.
Me too. That's all I can say.
But the one thing I just wanted to mention, just because it's weird that this came out, is that on Wednesday's BackUp last week, Pete and I were talking about DLC and the Borderlands DLC, and I was like, I wish that they would just release it as a standalone DLC pack because I could just play that and not have to play through Borderlands to get it. And then yesterday, the Doom Eternal expansion, the Ancient Gods, it gets announced, and id Software explained that it is a standalone expansion, and so you don't need to have Doom Eternal to play the Ancient Gods expansion, which I just think, I'm like, that is so weird that I was wishing for that 4 days ago, and now it's happening. And that
what else can you wish for while this is working?
That's a very good question. Okay, I want what? I mean, I don't know. 2020 seems pretty good right now, so there's not too much that I feel like is missing.
I love that the article that pointed this out called it an expand-alone, which I thought was a fantastic phrasing. That was, I think, the journo who wrote it put that in. I think this is a really good idea because it's like it doesn't have that point of entry of like, hey, have you already got the game? Have you already finished the campaign? Now here's what it is. It's a standalone adventure that, I'm assuming will be bite-sized. I think they said it's more akin to like a tele-movie of the tied in with the actual full game itself. That's the perfect thing for someone who wasn't quite ready to make the dive into a series to download, I assume buy for cheaper, play in a shorter amount of time, realize they have a love for this game or a hate for it and never go back into it, and then say, but the ones who do like it say, great, I might dive into the full game now. And I think it's a really smart, it's the playable demo version that you buy.
Yeah, that's such a good point that, like, for me, I'm like, I don't want to have to play through Borderlands, which could be a 40-hour experience, and instead I want to play through an 8-hour expansion that's hyper-focused, because these kinds of expansions, you're going to see the same thing with Ancient Gods, the Control expansions, like basically all of these where you go, oh, these are cool expansions that are really focused, so you get a condensed story. But I hadn't even thought of the fact that if I finish it and I like it, and I'm like, oh, I'm craving more Doom, then I can just go get Doom Eternal. So this is the way that I'm going to start playing video games. Is just play these little expansion bits and then maybe dip a toe into the main thing.
Because it's rarer now that these expansions tie directly to the story in a kind of sequel way, because they're going to save that stuff for a sequel. So they are often so standalone that they're a new character, they're a totally new setting, there's little ties to the main game, but they're never, they're never cannibalizing the sequel that's going to be in the works already. So I think if they can keep them separate from that main adventure, that just makes it more approachable for people who are considering jumping in and going, oh, who are these characters? Where am I? It's like, no, they'll wrap it all up in a nice little package. And if you like it, play more later.
And then K Cider in the chat says, Nick, when you were talking about the Borderlands 3 DLC, although it isn't standalone, you can start with a level 50 character and skip the first section of the game just for the DLC, which is very true. And you get that a lot these days, but you still have to buy that main game. So it's like, I still need to purchase that game and the DLC even though all I want to do is just play in the head of that guy, which is the setting of the DLC. All right. Whew, I feel like we've gone through a ton, guys.
That was heaps.
We covered so much. I'm exhausted. And I'm done.
Evil Neth in the chat was just saying, when I mentioned the two killable white-bearded protagonists, they were like, well, which is it, Gus or Nick? I was like, yeah, good point.
I mean, I'm feeling very attacked right now. We will be back with more news on Wednesday. We're going to see how that goes. Every second day seems like maybe that's the way to go. Does anyone have anything that they want to promote or remind the beautiful people about?
There should be a playback dropping tomorrow, which I believe is you two guys playing a game. Isn't that correct, Steph?
Oh, yes. We played in a triumphant return for Nick and Steph play quirky, unique dating sims. We play Best Friend Forever. And I have to say, at one point, I actually cried. I was laughing so hard. It was just a joy, an absolute joy. And I can't wait to play more of it.
By all accounts, it's a long one.
It is a long one. It's 48 minutes long at the moment. It's probably going to get cut down a little bit. But we were talking about this, and we did, because when we did Dream Daddies, we played the first bit, and then we did a hard cut down where it was like a 15-minute episode. And then I think we did it for the second one, and then we went, oh, we're missing too much stuff. And when we kept playing it, we expanded it out. So we're just going to start long so that you kind of get the full experience. We need to come up with a name for this, Steph. We need. Do you mean
like a series of playing the same game?
Yeah, or like
just
specifically a series of playing
games.
games where we play dating sims.
Oh yeah, that's
because
great.
I feel like a lot of them come out. We can dip our toes into some Honey Pot 2 action when it appears.
That's true, and there's also a back catalogue of weird dating sims. Like we could just go dip our toe back into How to Fool Boyfriend and the sequel.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Which is beloved.
Usually when something gets announced on this show, I have a slight pang of like, I want to be involved. Guess what? I don't want to be involved in this whatsoever.
I feel like deep down you do.
My dating life is complex enough as it is. I don't need pigeons and dogs.
Well, if you have an idea of what that series could be called, let us know in the Discord or on Twitter.
Already a great suggestion. Sorry to interrupt. The Saltiest Pretzel said it's the back pocket chiller. So it's Bachelor.
Oh, like The Bachelor?
I like that.
Yeah. I like that.
We can work this through, I think.
Well, Monster Prom people are suggesting. Yeah.
That was I really wanted to play that game, and that just it just sort of went through the cracks. The Bacheloretta says Phoenix Online.
I like to think they typed that out as they typed it. They're like, "This isn't working the way I wanted."
Yeah, totally.
Anyway.
But I have to say something. All right, so we have that playback there. Wednesday we'll be back with more news. Thursday we'll be back with the normal Thursday night show. A big thank you to everyone who came and hung out for Amateur Hour over the weekend as well. That was a ton of fun. The first day was very messy, and then the second day was just spectacular. And,
both just as chaotic.
It was. Did Steph just? Is she okay?
We really need to secure that webcam. That's the second time that's happened.
Sometimes I kick the bottom of my webcam stand, and then it's like I'm in an earthquake.
Perfectly summing up amateur hour, well done.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for watching and hanging out. Reminder to head over to the Patreon for if you want to become a member of this beautiful community, and that is patreon.com/backpocket. You can join at any tier, but the $5 tier or above gets you access to the Discord, which is the best Discord ever. And I've gotten so many messages from so many people saying, I've never seen a Discord this active, this engaged, and this accepting and friendly. So that is actually all thanks to the mods. We try to make it as hostile and unfriendly place as possible, and the moderators delete all my messages and just make sure everyone is getting on and having a blast. So a big thank you to our I think we're up to 12 mods or something, which just seems like we've handed over too much.
Mod-like mugs coming soon. God-like mod-likes to them.
They are.
It's my job for today. I got to get onto them.
It's on the list. It's on this week's list. So that is exciting. All right, we're out. We got to go, guys. Steph, Gus, let's back it out.
Back it out of here.
And we're backing out.